Welcome to Let's Talk Color.
I'm Amy Woolf, Principal Designer at Amy Woolf Color and Design.
And I'm Amy Krane, Founding Designer at Amy Krane Color. We're both professional color experts who specialize in architectural color. We met while training, and years later, the conversation is still going strong.
We both live our lives immersed in color and design. We often agree, but sometimes we don't, because color is personal. Color truths, however, are universal.
In each episode, we'll unravel the mystery of choosing color for your home or business, both inside and out.
Welcome back to Let's Talk Paint Color. In this episode, we're going to really focus on bedroom colors for kids, how to think about those colors, how to navigate the decision-making process with your little people, and talk about how to make that conversation successful.
Sounds good.
So I have a hunch I do more kids' color than you do, Amy. Would you say that's true? Do you do a lot of work for families and kids, or second homeowner, empty nesters more?
No, families, for sure.
Yeah. Okay. All right, good. And when you're consulting with families and talking to parents, who's in charge of the color decision? Is it the kids, the parent, or you?
Never me. I would say more often than not, the parent will say to me, and my child wants their room to be X. So that's more than 50% of the time. I don't know how much more than 50. So, and if they don't say it, I do say, does your child have any desires? Because I think it's important that they ask, and a lot of kids do have a preference, and so we definitely go there, and I'm really happy to accommodate what they say, but sometimes I temper it, I consult, meaning recently I did a really beautiful historic home for a couple, and they had one child home. He was probably about, I don't know, maybe 13 or 14. And the parents had fantastic taste. This was a very upscale historic house. Everything subtle, sophisticated, gorgeous, super fun. Lucky me. And then we get to the kids' bedroom, which is en suite. They were trying to get him out of it, but it was en suite. Theirs was not. And the kid wanted blue and yellow. In fact, I think they said bright blue and bright yellow.
Sounds like a sports team scheme to me.
Oh, I didn't even think of that. And I really tried to. I said, "Wow, blue and yellow is great. Bright can become a problem. This room gets a lot of light. Walls that are too bright for anyone, no matter what their age, could be, disruptive in terms of sleeping and resting and studying and things like that. So why don't we consider an intelligent way to do this blue and yellow thing?" And we ended up with a sort of knockdown, muted, but not light blue, and sort of a muted goldy yellow for the back of the bookcases. So it wasn't like, this wall's bright blue and this wall's bright yellow. It used the colors, but tamed them. And that's why I'm there.
I think that's great. I think when kids get wrapped up in not even kids. I mean, I've seen it go on in the man cave as well. when clients get wrapped up in the sports team colors, and we end up with something like the big green monster, which is the green color that the Fenway Park is painted. Ben Moore came out with that color a few years, maybe longer than a few years ago. But the sports team colors on the walls can be, not supportive. And as you and I both know, because we were trained, regarding supportive color that's physiologically easier to live with, I think your choice to tone things down and go with more muted versions of those colors was a good one. So in my experience, kids will always, always, always pick the brightest colors if you give them a selection to choose from. So what I tend to do is, unless a child is really, or a young person is really adamant about a specific color, what I will tend to do is talk to the parent who's in the decision-making role and find the brightest color that they can tolerate, and then dial back down from there so that we can offer the kid 3 or 4 choices, knowing that they're always going to pick the brightest one. So instead of giving them some colors that the parent likes and then, one outlier bright one, which we know they're going to go with, it's always going to be the
Right.
screamer color, the sort of the color of the plastic toys out in the yard, stuff like that. Disney colors, I think Disney had a paint palette, right? For kids' colors that I thought were pretty garish and hard to live with. The other thing I ask parents about, and I think about when I'm in the house, is where is that room relative to the major traffic flow in the upstairs space? Because often, bedrooms are upstairs. And as you and I discussed in the last episode, upstairs is a whole different world. We don't worry so much about flow. The bedrooms can be what they want to be, kind of independent of the color scheme of the rest of the house. But if, the bedroom is in direct view of the main passageway and the parents are going to walk by it every single time, maybe they don't want a fluorescent color, beaming light out into the rest of the space. So that's another thing to consider. But I think it's nice to give kids choices. I have come across a number of design professionals, colleagues I've met over the years, who tell the stories of their childhood bedrooms, that they were allowed to do whatever they wanted. And sometimes it was, it resulted in what is known as a color allergy, where they can never look at that color again.
Oh my goodness, guilty. I was about to launch into that, Amy.
Tell me more.
So when I was 8, we moved from Brooklyn to Long Island, and I got my own bedroom, which I didn't have when I lived in Brooklyn, and my mom and my grandmother decorated the room, and I was 8, as I said. So the room had a new French provincial furniture. It was white with a little bit of painting on it, and a deep red carpet, deep red, not bright, white walls. And sort of the centerpiece of the room was the bedspread that they had custom made, which was a white, red, and pink floral. And I couldn't stand it. And for the life of me, I couldn't understand how people could combine red and pink, because how could that go? What did I know? How did I not know that pink came from red? I thought it was horrible. And it had long-term repercussions for me. And when I was allowed to do my bedroom myself at 12, it was already the 70s. And so I chose a rust shag rug and a wallpaper, which was a giant plaid of, the background was glossy white, and the plaid was navy, light blue, yellow, and rust, which started my lifelong love of tartan. But it was 180
Wow.
degrees away from it. I had to keep the French provincial furniture, unfortunately. But it was like anti-feminine, Don't give me those prissy pink and red flowers. Goodbye. It was very androgynous. And I think that certainly not true for every kid. And I'm going to tiptoe around the fact this might be more of a girl thing than a boy thing, but I don't know. I think if you end up being a person who's kind of sensitive to visuals, into color, into design, you may not have been that at 8, but if you go on to be that, then you are very affected by the colors of your youth. And, I rebelled. What can I say? How about you?
The first house that we spent a significant amount of time in as children, my parents also spent a significant amount of time stripping multiple layers of wallpaper off the walls. So I can promise you there was no further application of wallpaper going on in my childhood. And I think my bedroom was like a peach color. I don't really remember getting a chance to decorate and make those choices. What I do remember is moving my furniture a lot. Shoving my furniture in this corner and that corner, and my bed was on wheels. It was an antique 4-poster bed. I would take a sheet and put it on top of the 4 posters and attach it with ponios, little hair bands to pretend that I had a canopy bed. So there was some decorating, with the rearrangement. And by the time I was 16 or 17, 16 and 17, I was actually decorating living rooms and helping my parents buy furniture and selecting, major pieces and colors for actual living spaces. So I guess that's kind of where I cut my teeth. But I think all those walls were white, though. I don't think my parents were doing a whole lot of color on the walls. That's since changed. Both of my parents are really into it. My mom on her own and my dad, with my help. But anyway, so getting back to kids, though, it's funny, but the last couple of jobs, me and my accent wall thing, right? But the last couple of jobs I've done for families, we've been working in rooms where the kids share the space. So in both cases, there's a boy and a girl in both of the last 2 kid bedrooms I did. And they, it's cool. There's 2 bedrooms. They sleep in the same room, and then they have a dedicated play space, which I think is really neat.
How old?
So they've
How old are these kids?
They're little. They're little people. They're like 4, 5, 6, 7.
Okay.
They're
before they care.
Preschool to early elementary, right? Before
Yeah.
Boys
Well,
and
that's
girls
yeah.
Before they grow into having cooties or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So anyway, in both cases, and I just realized that this thinking about it, we did multiple colors in the bedrooms. Different color on the ceiling for the first one, and then sort of a violet and a yellow on opposing walls. Mm-hmm. And then in the most recent one, we did 4 different colors, one on each wall.
How different were they?
They were different hues. One was pink, one was blue, one was yellow, one was green. They were really dialed back, really soft, really balanced. There were bunk beds, there's a lot of windows and a lot of doors, so there wasn't a ton of wall space. The colors were really, really soft, but it was an interesting way to not have to pick, to deliver to the kids exactly what they said. We want this, this, and this. And instead of saying, well, you have to pick one, we picked it all. Wow. And they're really excited and really happy about it. And it's I haven't seen it in person, but it was an interesting problem solver.
That sounds fantastic. I mean, I did twin girls when they were young, maybe 6, and they picked green and pink. So, which are terrific together. This was the grandparents' condominium, but in it was a bedroom for their granddaughters to sleep over. And they were about 6. And they asked them, what colors do you want? Because they were going to share the room, and they said green and pink. So we made the room pink, and the grandmother, who was a fine artist and an art teacher, painted sort of moon shapes as headboards in green on the walls. So that was basically a pink room with it was sort of like, you see my chair behind me, Amy? I know listeners, you can't. So it's a yellow-green, mid-tone yellow-green, slightly less sharp than that.
Like Granny Apple Smith.
So we had these.
Granny Apple.
Yes,
Granny
yes.
Smith?
And she Granny Smith, yeah. So she painted those headboard shapes in ovals behind each bed, and that's how we did it. So, I mean, you need someone with skill to do curves like that, but she had it. But I think that
That's completely charming.
I can't wait to see. But you must get pictures of that multi-toned room because that sounds fantastic. Would you say that they were pastels?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Beautiful.
Definitely.
Beautiful.
I mean, not wimpy pastels, but, soft colors. I guess that's my
Euphemism.
euphemism. Exactly. Thank you. That's my euphemism for pastels. Soft.
Cool.
So anyway, but it's also interesting to me to note that I think those strict, blue is for boys, pink is for girls thing is kind of fading. Traditionally pink was a boy color and blue was a girl color, or, these things have changed over time. And I think as our definition and observation of gender becomes more fluid, there's a lot more room for boys to, love pink and girls to like blue or, whatever. I don't think it was ever an issue for girls liking blue. It's interesting to see how, kids are embracing, things all along the continuum, whether it's gender or color or clothing styles or, whatever. So...
Well, I think a bit of history, this is a good time to interject a little bit of history there, because the pink and blue thing is post-World War II, and I don't think everybody knows that. So, if you looked at a trade catalog for kids' clothes back from 1910s, 1920s, you would see that often pink was recommended for boys' clothes and blue for girls. And it was said because pink came from red, a more passionate and strong color, hence better for boys, and light blue like the sky was sort of delicate like girls. I mean, so still assigning color attributes with supposed gender attributes, but it was switched. And then after World War II, Rosie the Riveter came home from the factory and hung up her blue dungarees and was given, June Cleaver apron. And marketers started wrapping femininity in pink. And so in the years following World War II, marketing just assigned pink to girls and blue to boys. And hence we see to this day, that's exactly what it is. And, we know, gosh, I mean, if you were to ask me of all the colors that parents say their kids want for their bedrooms, now, I would say number one for a girl is pink, but usually when they're younger girls, number one for a girl is pink, number two for a girl is purple, and number one for a boy is blue. So we've all absorbed it. They've absorbed it, and even young people now in the year 2022 are still kind of to some degree marching along those lines, which is kind of sad, I mean, you can go back to the 1700s and other many centuries back and look at men's clothing, all the different, breeches and waistcoats and velvet and silk and brocade and all this. And there was plenty of pink for men. So it's really amazing. It's changed. Amazing.
I think what's interesting also, thinking about the pink for the young girls, is, and this is something I tell parents, is that girls tend to want to redecorate at about age 11 or 12.
I did.
So that pink that, may work for a 6-year-old probably is going to get pushed aside by about age 11 or 12. And boys, on the other hand, and, of course, every kid is different. Everybody's on a different timeline and a different continuum. But what I will say is boys generally don't seem to care until they're about 14, maybe 15. And sometimes they don't care at all. But usually when we're, redecorating a boy's room at about age 14 or 15, I'm going to want to pick a color that's going to carry them through, into adulthood and, college, if they're returning home in the summers. So I'm going to pick something a little more sophisticated, a little more, adult-like, grown-up, a dark blue. And I will also say that when I'm doing consults for children, I always ask the parents about the temperament of that child.
Great.
I really want to honor the temperament of the kid. I don't want, if somebody says to me, oh, my kid's really quiet and kind of introverted, and I'd like to have them be a little more cheerful or let's do a happy color in their room. But I think it's really important to honor the kid that color should suit their needs and their nature. What made me think of that was navy blue. My daughter, when we moved into this house, was 13, 14, and we painted her bedroom navy blue. Walls, ceiling, the whole thing, navy blue. South face, southern light, lots of light, skylights, so we could get away with that dark color. But truly, at the end of the day, she was the kind of person who needed to come home and be in a cave, and really kind of unwind and regroup herself at the end of every school day. So that blue cave really suited her personality. And in the same way, that means maybe some kids do really want fluorescent pink and should have it. And I'm here to say that I don't think it's good physiologically, but if it suits the emotional makeup and the personality, and the personality of that kid, then that's okay. So,
well, Amy, I remember in our training, there was some kind of personality profiling. It's got such a bad connotation, that word, but that we did, questionnaires and profiles and stuff like that. And I remember, also talking about introverts' colors and extroverts' colors. And in our training, they did say to sort of honor the temperament of the person, that you really, your bedroom is your sanctuary. And if you're not sharing it with another person, another kid, then it really can be and should be nourishing to you. And it should excite you if you want that. It should calm you if you need that. So I agree. I don't think that one should employ wall color to sort of fight the nature of a person. And I think talking about more about that, sometimes you see this in magazines a lot, but I think it happens also in life. Sometimes you see parents wanting to take the sort of sophisticated, muted neutrals that they did their house in, often grays, either cool gray or more so warm gray, taupey light grays, and put it into young, like toddlers' bedrooms, babies' bedrooms. And I have to say, especially for super young kid, and I'm not a parent, that you should decorate for child development, not for trends. I really don't believe that's the way to go. And if you look at studies that are done about kids and how they see babies are born, all they can react to is contrast in the very, very beginning, and their color vision isn't fully developed until they're 5 or 6 months old. And then it's excellent. They can see all of the colors. And so it's really advisable to, keeping in mind your kid's personality, if it's come out yet, is to decorate with cheerful colors. And cheerful doesn't mean screaming bright. It doesn't mean chroma yellow. But to have the room be colorful, so it's interesting for them to see, to have colorful art, have colorful things and furniture, to move things around so there's always new visual interest going on. And if your kids are poor, as they get older, as a toddler or whatever, if they're a poor sleeper, maybe you should have the calmer colors in there. Or if they have some kind of, I don't know if you'd consider it a neurological disorder or not, but if they're more of an ADHD kind of kid, then you probably should not have really bright colors in there. So think about the development of your child and colors which help them along the way to develop into well-rounded individuals. And if you really have to do the neutral wall, make sure there's other colors in there, because you could there's a way to do that. A crib can be a color, a chair to sit in can be a color, a toy house can be a color. There can be patterns on the walls. The lighting can be different colors. You can add color and pattern to the room tastefully without, again, it being screaming bright, so that you still create visual interest for the child. But I think it's better personally to stay away from neutrals. What do you think?
I think I'd like to see the end of the gray nursery.
Yeah, baby. That's what I mean.
No more gray nurseries. Going back to that idea of what babies see early on, what they see is contrast. And so
Right.
often you'll see very early developmental toys as being black and white, and then they introduce a little bit of red. So one of the things to keep in mind also is to have a variety of values. And when I say value, I mean lightness to darkness. So some lighter colors, some darker colors. One way you can check your values in your room is to take a photo in black and white. And you can start to see what comes up lighter, what comes up darker. So that's also a way to bring some variety and some contrast into the space.
Great idea.
I do think that, nurseries should be stimulating, but not overstimulating, as you said, Amy, for kids who may be neurodivergent or just, all of us are kind of overstimulated these days anyway by the world around us. So I think having a nursery that's peaceful and yet inspiring,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
funny. I think, of course, we want to be inspired by all of our rooms, but it seems like there's nowhere more important to sort of have some inspiration than in a kid's room. A growing mind, growing child.
Right. Function first in these rooms.
Yes.
Because you can always cater, even after you cater to function first, it can still be beautiful and attractive. So just make the function the focus.
Right. Another interesting thing I've done in the past that I'll mention here is when I've worked with families who are moving to a new house, the case that comes to mind was a couple who were separating. And they were going to live close by to each other, and they maintained a really good family unit in a way, only under two separate roofs. We painted the new bedrooms for those kids the same colors as those that we had chosen for the original project, so that there was some continuity there with so much changing. Color does signal where we are in our lives, where we are in the world.
That's great.
It's kind of like me bringing my bedroom color from my last house up to this house. I use the same color in both houses to kind of ease my transition. And I think the same can be true for children, that if we can sort of pick up and move to the new house with a very similar color, that's going to help ease the transition and help the kid feel more settled in.
Yeah.
For some kids, that's important. Other kids may want brand new, fresh, change it up. And again, depending on the personality of that child and what their emotional needs are in that moment, we can kind of soothe that by bringing comfortable, familiar colors. When we talk about, bedroom colors for adults, one of the first questions I have is, tell me about your bedding, tell me about your artwork, tell me about all of those things. And I think one of the reasons why we can get away with doing 4 different colors on the walls is because there isn't a really strong color direction in a kid's room. There's usually kind of a cacophony of color because of their toys and their sneakers and their clothes on the floor and whatever else. I think about your grandma pink and green bedroom, which I would love to see a picture of. That's a more controlled environment where that room, I bet, was decorated, right? With good bedding and everything looking just so. And kids' rooms just aren't that way, So I think to sort of surrender to that, at least for little kids, to surrender to that reality and just be realistic about it is a good thing. So I guess one parting shot that I will share is that a bedroom is actually a great place for an accent wall, a feature wall. When a kid really, really, really wants a bright color and you feel like it's just too much and it's not going to work, I think that's a great peacekeeper and problem solver, is to do the fluorescent pink or the bold blue and gold or, whatever it is that they're really adamant about having. Put that on a single wall that maybe isn't the biggest wall, that isn't the most visual wall or prominent wall from the hallway, and, deliver the color that way. And then in that case, I would say maybe a neutral on the other walls.
Yeah. I'm in agreement there, certainly.
Yeah.
Or put it on the headboard wall, because when they're laying in bed
Right.
asleep, they're not looking at it, so it won't keep
Right.
them awake.
Right.
And
Exactly.
gee, I don't know, Amy, would you go as far as fluorescent? You don't really mean that, because that's just a step too far. Fluorescent, no.
No.
But
I
you
don't
mean bright. You mean bright.
I mean
yeah.
really bright. I'm not
Yeah.
using fluorescent in the most technical, scientific way. For me, it's just analogous
Bright.
to, too much. Stop it. Make it go away.
Yeah. Okay.
So, yeah. Anyway.
Sounds good.
Yeah. All right. So,
Thanks. I hope that you've learned a little bit about choosing colors for children's bedrooms. And come back and see us next time when we talk about another aspect of color for the built world.
and if there's something you'd like to hear us talk about, please write to us. You can find us at letstalkpaintcolor.com. We'd love to hear from you, hear your comments or your feedback, and tell us what you want to hear more about. Thanks so much for listening.
Bye.